Hi and welcome. English 2332, Week 5. Today we're going to talk about the themes of the Odyssey, a little bit of background, and then we're going to do a real quick review of the Greek culture. In fact, let's go ahead and do that first. Now, you have a quiz coming up next Thursday, major quiz, and I hope you all do well, and I hope you're prepared for it. Be sure to review that PowerPoint called The Ancient Period or The Ancient World. Um, but it talks about the first three cultures that we study, and the first two are going to be on this first exam. So you need to know all about the Hebrews and the Greeks, and of course the reading assignments in the on the syllabus. Gilgamesh, of course, the Hebrew Bible, just Genesis, the Book of Job, and those five Psalms, and then the Odyssey. All of that will be on the test, including now when you prepare for the test, there are a couple of important things to know. Of course, you need to know all the vocabulary, but for each piece of literature, you want to know the characters, the plot, and the themes. CPT. One reason why we're going over the themes today, but CPT, character, plot, and themes. Let's review real quickly the uh, the, the Greeks. This is about halfway through that PowerPoint. I know it's a longer PowerPoint, but if you'll skip down to about halfway through it, you'll find out that the Greek, now, and of course, these are generalizations. The Greeks were a massive culture, originating on a small island, but they literally influenced both their world and ours. The Greeks were thoughtful, creative, and strong. Let me emphasize the creative part. They were very inventive culture. They were very original culture. They invented a lot of things and ideas. They invented the study of history, the study of astrology or astronomy. Uh, they invented philosophy, which they're very famous for, and drama. They were intellectual and philosophical. They believe, you may have heard the expression, moderation in all things. That's not a good translation of the actual Greek philosophy, which was nothing too much. If you go with everything in moderation, then you're basically saying you should try everything, just a little bit of it. And you should try cocaine and heroin and just everything, but just try a little bit of it. The Greeks didn't really believe that. They believed don't be in excess of anything. They would have idolized a person who was a man. They didn't really hold women up to the same standards, but a person who was well rounded, a jack of all trades. Take a look at a really big bodybuilder or a professional athlete who's really good in one specific sport, one specific position. Um, uh, Patrick Mahomes, they would not have thought as much of him because he's really, really good at what he does, but he only does one thing. He plays quarterback in one specific sport. They idolize people who were good at many sports, plus were good thinkers, intellectual, good at relationships, had high morals. They believed in knowing thyself, knowing yourself. They were polytheistic, which means they had religion in their culture, but they weren't religion centric in the way the Hebrews were, but they believed that the gods were powerful and self centered. Their gods were basically human beings with superpowers. Um, and they believed that human beings were responsible for community and morality. In the Hebrews, of course, God, uh, the Lord, defined what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. Um, the definition of God's nature is love, and everything separate from God's nature is sinful. But the Greeks believed that man, human beings, defined what is good and bad, morality, as well as the group. If you'll skip down just a little bit further in that PowerPoint, you'll see you'll skipping ahead just a little bit, it says the tableau for the Greeks was a group of men sitting in a circle, earnestly discussing ideas. I couldn't find a picture of a bunch of men in togas, so I used college students. But you guys are very inventive and creative. But backing up just a couple slides, it says the ideal Greek, there's a little grid. What the ideal Greek was right thinking, he was adaptive, He was intelligent. He was socially graceful. He was a warrior. Now, these guys weren't nerds. They weren't wimps. They are warriors, and they conquered a lot of their world. They were able to successfully defend city-states from a lot of well, until the end. But they were balanced, right there in the middle of the grid, is they were balanced in all aspects of life. They were capable of creating morality. They were complex and questioning, which leads to being inventive. They were clever and tricky and valued these qualities in others, which is why Odysseus has these qualities. Odysseus is a great warrior, but he's also a great thinker. He's very inventive, very tricky, very cunning. All right, let's take a look at the themes of this. First of all, you need to know the word Xena, Xenia. Xena is the sacred code of hospitality. Sacred meaning it's ordained by the gods. This is literally Zeus's law, which stated basically that every homeowner, if you owned a house, you have to treat every traveler as an honored guest. But each guest had to be respectful to their host. Now, what does it mean to treat a traveler as an honored guest? It means you have to provide good food, not the old moldy leftovers. You have to provide a good place to sleep. Most homeowners had a special room set aside with a good bed, and you have to provide entertainment. And if you're rich enough, you had to provide parting gifts. We see this in the play when Telemachus leaves. Uh, well, Mentes is a god, but anyway, it's Athena in disguise. Spoiler. But each guest was expected to be respectful. You're not supposed to trash the place. You're not supposed to tear up. You're supposed to be nice and sweet and kind and gentle. All those kind of good things. And in the play, one of the main themes is the testing of the law of Xena. Now, this was a very important law, again, ordained by Zeus. And he says it's important. He says, upon pain of death, will you uphold the law of Xena? Why? Well, because back then they didn't have hotels or Motel 6. You couldn't just pull over and check into a Holiday Inn. They also didn't have hospitals. So, in order to encourage trade, which was absolutely essential for growth, you had to have trade. You had to have travelers to exchange both goods and ideas. But you had to have some place for them to stay. Couldn't expect them to camp out every night. And so, yeah, a traveler could walk so far and then expect to stay at somebody's house just by knocking on the door. Hi, my name is Joseph. I'd like to stay at your house now. Okay, come in. We got a good bed here for you. Um, so yeah, so the law of Xena is an important law to Greek culture, and it's one of the reasons why their culture flourished as well as it did for as long as it did. Another main theme of the Odyssey is loyalty. How long should you remain loyal to someone who everyone else thinks may be dead? Now, in the poem, they talk about Odysseus being dead for 20 years. Really, it's just the last 10 because they know he's alive up until the end of the Trojan War. He's the one largely responsible for the victory in the Trojan War. The Trojan horse was his idea. So they know he's alive up to there. It's just that journey home when he's blown off course for 10 years that they have no word from him. And they assume he's drowned or lost at sea or taken captive or which he was, or killed somewhere else, the Cyclops or whichever one of his misadventures. But everyone assumes he's dead, except, of course, for his wife Penelope. And his son Telemachus is not really sure. He wants to be hopeful. He wants to be loyal to his dad. But yeah, with no news, how long should you hold out? There's a little theme of vengeance in there, especially when Odysseus gets home. There's a theme of courage in action. You know, it's not enough just to be courageous when you're talking to yourself, but you actually got to go out and do something. Perseverance, sticking to it. Odysseus's main drive is to get home, which he reminds us several times. But of course, he's stuck on that one island for 7 years. He doesn't seem to mind that too much. And then, of course, finally, appearance versus reality. Disguises is a big thing in this play. Odysseus, very cunning, very tricky, also a brave warrior. He's also very, very strong. When he finally reveals, if you haven't read this far yet, I apologize, but when he finally reveals himself to the suitors, there's a bow which you have to bend backwards in order to hook up the string, and everyone tries it and they're not strong enough to string the bow. Odysseus is the only one who's strong enough. He's literally stronger than anyone else there. He's a great, powerful, strong warrior, but he's also very cunning and tricky and wise. And he seeks to make a name for himself, which he does. But think about all the times he appears in disguises to his own wife, to his own father. And how do you prove to someone that you are who you say you are? Of course, he's got the big scar from the boar's hunt, but that's not enough for either Penelope or the father. Look and see, read carefully about what it takes for them to believe that he is who he says he is. Can't blame him for being questioning or doubtful. The guy's been gone for 20 years. He's been presumed dead for 10. It's an interesting point. If you have questions about the content, please feel free to email me. Let me know how I can help clarify some of the uh, stuff. The test will open Thursday at 8 a.m. and will close at 11:55 p.m. I'm not sure yet if there'll be 25 or 50 questions, but as I make up the test, I will let you know. All right. If you have any other questions, let me know.